Hey there, me again. Did I mention that we'd love for you to like and share this video and subscribe to our channel because we have a lot of good stuff still to come. And how great would it be to create some community around this conversation? Take a moment to share your comments, your insights, and your thoughts in the comment section below, where you'll also find a few additional resources we've created for you. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to this edition of RealityChek Conversations. I'm Tanya Cervoni. Today I'm joined by Heidi Hauver. Heidi is the Vice President of HR and Talent for Invest Ottawa. You can read more about Heidi's background by clicking on the link below this video. I've invited Heidi to this conversation because she is an absolute wealth of knowledge for all things related to talent and human resources. And recently we were in a conversation about the challenges that HR has been facing during this crisis, and she's got a lot of valuable advice and suggestions to share with us. Heidi, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thanks for having me, Tanya.
So as we were saying, you and I were talking about the challenges that HR has been facing on the front line of this crisis, and even as we transition to whatever the new normal is going to be, there are things that we need to be thinking about now so that we can be prepared. So I wondered if you could share what some of those top challenges have been, how you see them shaping organizational culture and policy, and what are the implications for how we need to be prepared to transition back?
Yeah, so starting with some of the challenges, I've been speaking a lot to my HR peers around the world, and I think the global impact of this pandemic has really been unique for all of us. It is also, I think, something positive, because I think everyone is in this together and we are all navigating this journey, certainly differently, and there's unique circumstances, but the global impact has been number one, I think, across the board for HR leaders, something that unique in terms of what we've been dealing with. We plan for emergencies. We all have a plan when the water main breaks at the office, that our employees may need to transition quickly to working from home. We just never actually appreciated that everybody in the family unit or everyone that lives with our employees would also be working at home at this exact same time. So we've had to transition to working from home fairly quickly. We've had to kind of introduce new flexibility in the workplace practices, recognizing that each individual employee has very unique family circumstances. Mm-hmm. So we're navigating, a very uncertain and very stressful time, helping to keep our staff safe, helping to keep them happy, healthy, helping them to navigate kind of the responsibilities that they're trying to manage at home. Some of our employees, as I'm sure we can all appreciate because we have young children, mm-hmm. are adding not only partner, parent, but now teacher to their hats. And so I think there's just some unique challenges that we're faced with for the first time, including the fact that, this is a very stressful time for everyone. And I think, as HR leaders, we often take the role and responsibility of caring for others very seriously. But it is a heavy burden on understanding, trying to care for our employees, but also trying to, benefit or make sure that the businesses are all of our businesses. And I say that only because I come from a lens of being an HR leader internally, but also supporting clients. So I talk to a lot of our clients about the challenges they're going through in their businesses. And it's heavy. So I think that self-care piece is a bit unique for this as well, because as HR peers, I've often, we've been talking about what are you doing for your own self-care? Because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't really take care of our employees to the best of our efforts. And I think that's very interesting in this situation is, often we are tending to be that leader, but we also have to kind of recognize we have to be taking care of ourselves and our family in our own unique situation to really also lead by example and have that greater understanding for what everybody else is going through right now.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And it actually was our conversation the other day that had me think about HR as, when you think about the front line of this crisis, I was thinking of healthcare workers and folks in retail and, grocery stores. And I hadn't really stopped to consider, oh yeah, HR has had to pivot on a dime, keep our organizations viable and help employees with this tremendously difficult shift. So taking care of themselves, absolutely job number one.
I think that, you asked about kind of how is this very unique, situation going to change us, not only from an organizational culture point of view, but, looking at company policies, and how are we going to go to transition to that new normal? And that's what I'm hearing everybody talk about, the new normal, because how do you really go back to normal after you go through something like this on a global scale? And I think that, some of the things I've been reflecting about, some of the positives I think that we're seeing, a lot of organizations have really enhanced their communication. They're really, are looking at ways on how they're staying connected in with their team members. And I think that sense of community, all of those things are really positive. And I would like to see that transition to the new normal, where CEOs are continuing to do those coffees with the CEOs, continuing to send out their regular emails to keep everybody connected and well informed. And I think this is where leaders have really stepped up and, you see companies who are doing a lot of unique and really innovative ways to stay connected with their people. And I think we're going to see that transition to the new normal. I also think flexibility in the workplace, looking at our practices around how we work, when we work, when are people at their best? When are they most productive? Looking more about output and quality of work instead of, quantity of work. I think that, companies have really surprised themselves. I work with a lot of clients, and some of those clients weren't comfortable with the work from home model. They had to transition, not on their own interest or accord, but they really forced to do that very quickly. I think a lot of them are surprising themselves about how their company is thriving in a unique time where their employees are being incredibly productive. Because I think, when you look at what, is being piled onto our employees, when they are working, they're trying to be as productive as possible. And I think that they recognize that if I've got 2 hours to get this done because I need to go and focus on the kids or focus on our loved ones, they really are, working in this capacity that they can. And I think that's really amazing. I think we're going to see a lot of companies look at that kind of long-term, how do we want to work? What programs do we want to provide our employees? And really flexibility in the workplace is something that employees have been asking for a long time. I think we've just kind of naturally proved that it is possible to still be thriving at work, even though you've got more flexibility in how you're working and when you're working. I that, that we've always recognized in the HR space that mental health and wellness has been a crisis for some time now. And I think that, when you go through an uncertain time like this, you recognize, where your employees need the most support. And I'm seeing, I think, a lot of positivity from, again, that unique kind of community, that kind of staying connected as an organization. And I see that, employees are getting support that they need. And I'm hoping that will also transition to that kind of new normal. And one of the things I've been thinking about that I would really love to see personally is, and this is kind of very practical, but it comes down to kind of how we greet one another. And I think that, to be more inclusive, when we think about how we greet one another in business, if we were to meet in person, we naturally post-pandemic or pre-pandemic would have given each other a handshake. Yeah. Right? Greeting. And I think post-pandemic, we're going to move to a more inclusive way of greeting one another, where a smile can go a long way, or a nod, or whatever it is that you're comfortable with. And I actually think that's going to be incredibly positive. One, from the inclusivity point of view, but also just from a general health and wellness point of view. I think we can decrease the regular cold and flu significantly just by finding different ways to greet one another. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to see post-pandemic.
Wow. Well, you shared a lot, and I can resonate with a lot of that. I think what's really great is that we're getting a lot of data points to inform how we're going to shift culture. So when you're talking about what's possible, when are people productive, I think individuals are learning that for themselves, and organizations are learning that. So we can hopefully come out of this even more efficient, effective, and strategic in terms of how we utilize our human resources. So thank you so much for sharing that. You've given us a lot to think about. I wanted to end on a positive note, although everything you've shared is actually quite positive, to ask you, what have you either experienced personally or what have you witnessed that's been really something positive coming out of this COVID-19 crisis?
There's so many things, and I do equate that to having a bit of a glass half full, mentality. And I think that, you have to, in these difficult times, find things to be grateful for and thankful for. I certainly, for us, as a family unit, I think hands down, it's got to be the fact that we've been able to come together as a family. I have a young family, and to be able to come together and have dinner with each other 7 nights a week, and then actually have a nighttime routine we're outside with the kids. That's not something we were able to do before because of our schedules with work and commutes on top of that. And, our kids needing to eat at a different time. We're all together, and we're basically, extending those weekend family dinner times to 7 days a week. And I certainly think that that's been a huge positive for us.
I can relate to that. And it'll be interesting to see what we're able to incorporate as we move forward. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your insights and all your thoughts around this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time, Tanya.
And this wraps up this edition of RealityChek Conversations. If you got something of value today, please take a moment to share this video with friends and colleagues, and be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss a future episode. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.